Nadu isn't the problem. You are. And today I'm going to explain why Nadu shouldn't get banned, and not only that, why we should rejoice its presence in the modern format. By the end of this video, you're going to be glad that Wizards employees have been on vacation with their hands over their ears, ignoring your desperate cries for help. But if you want somebody to listen to you about Nadu, or anything else for that matter, I highly recommend you check out the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp, the online therapy platform that makes mental health care affordable and accessible for everyone. You may have noticed that I haven't produced as much content recently. Why? To be honest, I've been in a bit of a rut. So when BetterHelp reached out to me, it couldn't have come at a better time. I used therapy once before when I was feeling a similar way, and it was critical in helping me navigate my way out of the situation. My therapist gave me tools to help manage my anxiety, sadness, anger, and hurt. They were compassionate, understanding, and a good listener. Honestly, I don't know where I'd be right now if I hadn't gone through with therapy in the past. The great thing about BetterHelp is it's so easy to get started. I began by logging onto the BetterHelp website and answering a few simple questions: my age, gender, what I was looking for in a therapist, and any personal struggles I felt comfortable disclosing. Within 48 hours, they matched me with my new licensed therapist, which is the usual turnaround time. Right away, she sent me some helpful information. She also gave me a few options about how we could proceed with the session. I opted for a phone call, but you can also use messaging or video call. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I've been struggling, and I'm eager to move forward with my life. I'm tired of holding myself back. Can you relate? If you're struggling, it's okay. Use my link, betterhelp.com/control4days to receive special discount on your first month and connect with an experienced licensed therapist who can support you from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to do this alone. Apples to oranges. In late June 2024, Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3 was held in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Going into the event, there were a handful of powerful strategies that competitors were testing. Mono Black Necro, built around the powerful Necropotence imitation Necro Dominance. Ruby Storm, which harnessed the power of the new flip planeswalker Ral Monsoon Mage, and Boros Energy, which featured a pair of white 1-drops that were undoubtedly busted. But while all of these decks had promise, there was one clear deck to beat.
It's Nadu. It's Nadu. What else could it be?
And sure enough, on day one of the Pro Tour, Nadu decks occupied a whopping 25.5% of the field, and an even larger percentage on day two. The deck was winning, and a lot. Over the course of the weekend, Nadu boasted an astonishing near 60% win rate, which on the surface appears to be a very dominant performance. But here's where the problem arises, where the comparisons fall short. People argue that Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3 Block Constructed was the same thing as Mythic Championship 4, where the now banned Hogak Arisen Necropolis ran rampant. For the sake of appeasing you, let's crunch the numbers and talk about it. Much like Nadu, Hogak boasted over 20% of the metagame share and also put an absurd number of pilots into day 2. That's not too shabby. But here's where the numbers diverge. You see, despite that astonishing conversion rate, Hogak managed to put only 1 player into the top 8 and 0 players in the top 4. When we compare these statistics to Pro Tour MH3, Nadu put 5 players into the top 8 and 4 players into the top 4. The difference? Hogak failed to live up to the hype. It failed to meet expectations. Hogak was a disappointment. Hogak didn't get banned because it was too powerful or unbeatable. It got banned because it let us all down. Hogak was the Sean Livingston of modern MTG. So much potential, but we'll never know. Conversely, Nadu lived up to the hype and did as we expected. Sheer and utter domination from start to finish.
It's Nadu.
Nadu is not a disappointment or a failure. Wizards is proud of you, boy, because it's reliable, dependable, a straight shooter if you may. So now, it should be abundantly clear to you that Hogak and Nadu are not the same. But what about the other banned cards that were accused of ruining a Pro Tour? What about Eye of Ugin? Also, not the same thing. Let me explain. At Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch, which took place in February 2016, Eldrazi decks also put up a dominant performance, and much like Nadu, those darn Eldrazi wound up taking down the whole thing off the strength of Eye of Ugin and Eldrazi Temple. Clearly, Wizards didn't learn their lesson. So shortly after the Pro Tour, on April 4, 2016, Eye of Ugin was banned. The reason, and I quote, "Since Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch, Eldrazi decks have been dominating the modern tournament environment. At the Pro Tour, Eldrazi were represented in 6 of the top 8 decks, including the winning deck." The next part is key. While the Eldrazi decks have a lot of powerful cards, the powerful draws are generally based on the mana acceleration from Eldrazi Temple and Eye of Ugin. Rather than ban multiple creatures, we find it preferable to ban a land. Did you catch that? This explanation gives us great insight into how Wizards of the Coast thinks when it comes to banned and restricted announcements, and exposes a key difference between Nadu and Eye of Ugin, and the paramount reason for their difference. You see, Nadu is a creature. It's not like it accelerates your mana or anything. So instead of pointing the blame at this lovable little bird, instead you should be pointing your finger at the real problem, which Wizards explicitly identified years ago. It's lands. Lands are clearly the problem, not Nadu. If the Nadu deck doesn't have lands in it, it doesn't work. So for some strange reason, Wizards thinks that something from the Nadu deck needs to be banned. As the precedent suggests, they need to ban the lands. All of them. The Simic Conundrum. Back when I was in college, I remember one of my professors explaining how to improve your decision making when taking multiple choice tests. The methodology he taught was process oriented. To start, you need to improve your odds and eliminate one of the answers that clearly stood out or was different from the others. He called it finding the rat. So let's apply that methodology to this scenario. There are 3 Simic 3-drops that have drawn comparisons as being too busted. Their words, not mine. Now let me pose the question to you. Can you find the rat? Let's break it down. To start with, we have a few obvious similarities. All 3 cards are legendary 3-drops in Simic colors that can snowball or get out of control if left unchecked. Some might argue that Nadu's effect is more of an avalanche than a snowball, but in my opinion, we're splitting hairs at that point. Additionally, what card is that not true for? Heck, Mon's Goblin Raiders has no qualms with hitting you for 20 upside your head if left unchecked. It's a stupid argument. At a closer glance, some subtle differences become more apparent. Let's start by looking at Uro and Oko's banned and restricted announcements. Oko Thief of Crowns has become the most played card in competitive Modern, with an inclusion rate approaching 40% of decks in recent league play and tabletop tournaments. In addition to having a high overall power level, Oko has proven to reduce metagame diversity and diversity of gameplay patterns in Modern. Now let's take a look at Uro. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, has become a dominant fixture across many of the top Modern decks and operates at a power level that makes it difficult for other mid-range and control strategies to compete with. To open space in the metagame for a greater variety of mid-range strategies and other slower decks to coexist, we're choosing to ban Uro in Modern as well. Did you see it? They were both guilty of the same crime, being too popular and inhibiting format diversity as a result. Now can we say this of Nadu? Not at all. Nadu wasn't even the most played card at the Pro Tour that was named after it. What a clown. Delving a layer deeper, Uro and Oko are 3-letter names that start with vowels. Very interesting. And sticking with the numerology theme, you'll notice that Uro has 6 toughness, and Oko can have 6 loyalty the turn it enters play. While Nadu's 4 toughness is nothing to scoff at, he looks like an adolescent when compared to his other Simic contemporaries. Lastly, and the big thing you're missing, is hidden in the text box. That's right. Life gain. Both Uro and Oko are capable of gaining 3 life a turn. If history has taught us anything, it's that life gain is completely busted. Death Rate Shaman and Luris, guilty of the same crime, received the same sentence. I think we all know who's the rat here. The fun argument. This big bird has been called many a name, but I will not stand by you saying that he's not fun. Spend a night on the town with the guy and you'll change your tune real fast. He's a blast. With that aside, the notion that Nadu doesn't interact and is difficult to interact with is irrelevant. I've heard people make comparisons saying Nadu is like playing solitaire. What, you don't like playing solitaire? Just because you're not having fun doesn't mean the other person isn't, right? I mean, just look at this guy. He looks happy, doesn't he? And generally, when you're losing, you're not going to be having as good of a time as the person across the table. That's how physics works. What it boils down to is Magic the Gathering is a game, and while games are supposed to be fun, technically, they don't need to be. So if you're not having fun, well, too bad. #UnbanTwin. On January 18, 2016, the world stopped spinning for modern gamers across the planet. In the interest of competitive diversity, UnbanTwin is banned from Modern. Wait, what? Competitive diversity? Not format diversity or metagame diversity, competitive diversity? What does that even mean? Is this really the reason they gave? Anyway, back to the present day, when it comes to 2-card combos, the UnbanTwin argument is always brought up. UnbanTwin was banned for being a 2-card combo that was hard to interact with. This should be banned too. Well, it wasn't banned for that reason. And second, let's be honest, Twin shouldn't be banned. But with all that aside, Nadu is not guilty of the crime it is being charged with. The accusation is that Nadu, along with Shuko in play, creates a UnbanTwin effect, winning the game on the spot. But that's not true. Now, is it? First of all, it's technically not deterministic, and we all know that. Second, Nadu isn't in fact a 2-card combo. It's a 3-card combo. You need an additional piece in play to really take flight. It gets exponentially more difficult when there are more pieces involved. And now, I could understand the argument if Nadu did something as egregious as tutor for the missing piece or draw cards until you found it. But Nadu doesn't draw cards, does he? My point exactly. This case is closed.